I just wanna have peace. Pay for the bill, let them take my car, never see the receipt. Good health, we prize, but everybody around prosperity.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Livbtr podcast. This is your host, Jay Ciano, and this is the show for people trying to optimize every area of their life. Let's go.
I just wanna have peace.
Today's guest is an all-around superhero. He is somebody that I look up to in so many ways, and I cannot wait to chop it up with him. Eric Hinman is a hybrid athlete, a 5-time Ironman, serial entrepreneur, brand builder who specializes in scaling early-stage consumer and wellness brands. A lot of similarities there. Unfortunately, not the Ironman background. But we're going to dig into all the things, just living better day to day and how he transitioned from a corporate misfit to living the good life and getting up every day and getting after it. Can't wait to dig into Eric Hinman's lifestyle and maybe adopt some into my own. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jay. Good to see you, brother.
It's good to see you, man. Saw you a couple weeks live in person in Austin, Texas, where you are right now.
Yeah, we're loving it here. It's city life here is incredible. I love Colorado for access to nature and mountain biking and recreating outside. But the people in Austin are just so collaborative, so community oriented, so down to create stuff. And it's really becoming an epicenter for the wellness world. Some of the best gyms, in my opinion, are here, these like social wellness houses. They're combining fitness with the social component, which, you know, having epic conversations after doing something uncomfortable with your endorphins racing, in my opinion, is like one of the best drugs on the world.
Yeah, you talk a lot about how movement is medicine, right? That's your tagline. And since meeting you, I've really followed along with your journey and watching, how much you've changed. Similarly to myself, which is why this is called the Livbtr podcast. I'm just trying to be better today than I was yesterday, and you show a lot of pictures of you, doing different types of working out and drinking alcohol and kind of doing all the things, living the corporate lifestyle. And can you kind of take the audience a little bit, from that early onset of, man, I want to change my lifestyle and how you got where you are today?
For sure. So I think we all go through these chapters of life where, we're surviving, we're going through the motions, we're chasing the public perception of success until we really find our tribe, we find the environment we thrive in, and we find the things that we're really passionate about and have a purpose-driven life. So, like most in my 20s, it was very exploratory. It was chasing the fancy suits and the nice house and the fancy cars and the nice watches. And again, nothing wrong with those things, but, I don't know that they bring a sense of real fulfillment over time. You might get a quick dopamine hit from a lot of those things, but there isn't this massive sense of fulfillment when you're chasing those things.
When did that become when did you actually, what age were you when you were like, this isn't it, man? Like, this is not it.
Yeah, it was late 20s, 28, 29 years old. And honestly, it probably clicked on a long run, over a series of running and biking and swimming in those triathlon years. But, I think it probably was just out there on one long run where I'm like, why am I chasing all these other things when I feel so damn good exercising? And I'm starting to attract opportunities into my life through just being the best version of myself and having a full cup and having this unlimited energy. I want to build my life around wellness. And, that's where I sit today. But it all started just by hiring a personal trainer. I was pretty out of shape in my mid to late 20s because I was partying like a rock star on the weekends. And in my first career, property and casualty insurance, I was sitting a lot. I was driving 50,000 miles a year. I was eating Subway. I thought that was my healthiest option when I was on the road. I was doing bench press and bicep curls 3 or 4 days a week and push-ups, very vanity-based fitness.
Sure.
And I just didn't have an education around healthy eating, aerobic activity, strength training. And most importantly, I didn't have an education around how that makes you feel mentally, emotionally. I only associated it with aesthetics. So hired a personal trainer, 27, 28 years old. started to get back into aesthetically good looking shape. And I was doing CrossFit type workouts before I knew what CrossFit was, before anyone was really talking about it on a large scale level. And through that, I started running again. I had a running background. I ran cross country and track in high school. I played basketball. So I was an athlete growing up. And through running, I got into biking, and then I met some friends who had these really fancy bikes that had 4 handlebars on them, and I was intrigued by what they were. And they told me they were signed up for a half Ironman. And I'm like, what's a half Ironman? Like, you swim 1.2 miles, you bike 56, and you run a half marathon. And I'm like, you do that in a day? And they're like, yeah, people do it in under 4 hours. I'm like, what? Oh. So I signed up for my first sprint distance triathlon with no swimming background, no real biking background, and, some running background, and really just got addicted to the process.
How did that first one work out for you? Like,
I almost drowned in the swim. I was backstroking and side stroking. And a sprint distance triathlon is an 800-meter swim, maybe a 12-mile bike, and a 5K run. I mean, nothing like a half Ironman or full Ironman, but sure. I mean, it took everything out of me. I mean, I wasn't used to working out for an hour and 20 minutes at that point. I was doing 30-minute sessions with my personal trainer 5 days a week. So, that was another aha moment of like, oh, there's this whole other side of fitness called endurance. And I kind of got obsessed with endurance. And I started going to these triathlons every Wednesday night in Jamesville, New York. There was a big triathlon club in my hometown of Syracuse. And every Wednesday I would show up and I would do a triathlon, a little mini sprint triathlon. And after like a year of doing it, I got pretty good and I was starting to win these Wednesday night triathlons. So, I signed up for my first half Ironman about a year and a half into doing triathlons. And, that was another like humbling moment where, the swim was pretty hard. It was in Maryland, Cambridge, Maryland. It was a really hot and humid day. It's called Eagle Man. The bike I crushed, but I crushed it in a way that I destroyed my legs. And I went out on the run at like a 6:50 pace, mile 1, 7:15 pace, mile 2, 8-minute pace, mile 3, walking by mile 5. I just didn't pace it at all. And during that time period, there was this guy, Mike Corona, in my hometown, who was a really elite triathlete. And I would beat him on Wednesdays in these shorter distance triathlons, but he would crush me in anything longer. So I'm like, why are you beating me in these endurance events when I look fitter than you and I can beat you, I can run faster than you, I can bike faster than you, I have more power than you, but I obviously can't beat you in a longer distance triathlon. And he taught me a really valuable lesson: slow down to speed up. Endurance racing is all about durability and having an aerobic engine. And to build that, you need to do more volume. And you're doing everything in the gray zone right now. You're doing everything at like a 150, 155 heart rate. So you're not going hard enough to increase your lactate threshold. And you're not going slow enough to really build the kind of volume you need to go fast in a half Ironman or full Ironman. So he made me back way off on my biking wattage and my running pace. And took me 3 or 4 months to listen to him because I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything now compared to what it was before, because I was used to the CrossFit type burn.
Yeah.
And, I slowed down, and sure enough, it worked. I went from running 8:30 per mile pace at a 140 heart rate to 4 years later running a sub 6:30 pace at a 129 heart rate for 20 plus miles with very little speed training. It was all just from volume and building durability and having this big aerobic engine. So during those years, I mean, I kind of call it my psychedelic experience, where I had a lot of time alone with, my endorphins racing. There was, I had lots of time and space to think. And that's really when I decided, like, I want to redesign my life around wellness. And if that means backing off on building businesses and making more money, then so be it. I just feel so great chasing this best version of myself, this unlimited energy, this mental clarity that I had from all the workouts. So, that's stuck with me. The Ironman years were 2010 to 2014. I still train 2 to 3 hours a day, just, more strength training, anaerobic conditioning, still do a lot of aerobic training. But now I do it because I just love how I feel. And I've attracted so many amazing people into my life and so many opportunities just from living out, something that I find tremendous purpose in.
It's interesting because when you talk about like those early days converting from kind of like what we're told to be how you have to be successful and the life that we're expected to live. I was a DJ, in my early years, and I always, I had to go get a real job. In my head, DJing was not a real job. Meanwhile, look at today, right? It's the same thing. That if you go
Hmm.
all into something, you can make anything your job,
Hmm.
right? Not that it's easy, but you are like the face of a wellness lifestyle today. And I think when you set your intentions and you go all in, you start to attract certain things and people and community, and really that's so much I think how you live, and it's awesome to even be part of the halo effect of you and Brian Mazza and a lot of the homies that are doing great things in the space. It's so cool.
Yeah, and that was another lesson I learned, going from my 20s into my 30s and now in my 40s that, I think there are periods of time where we do need to chase and we do need to, go knock on doors and hear a lot of no's. But once you get to a place where you're adding enough value in the world, opportunity comes to you. And, if you're adding enough value, there's a monetary component to that as well. And also figuring out like what can I do that's different than others, what can I be known for, what do I want to spend 10,000 hours doing to really hone my craft. And a lot of that for me is all of the people I've met over the years. I mean, I preach meet at least one new person every day. I probably meet 5 new people every single day with how many people we have come over in sauna at our place. And, if you multiply that out, 5 people times 365 times 10 years, that's like 18,000 people I've met over the last 10 years. When you have a small part of 18,000 people's minds and you gave them some kind of value, like that is going to come back to you in a massive way. And
Yeah,
that's
goodwill.
really how I've built my business now.
Yeah, it's amazing. And would you say that you always were a connector in that way, or did you start to actually evolve more into that as as you grew into yourself essentially, and like it all started to come together?
I'm an only child, so I always liked surrounding myself with friends. There were always people at my parents' house playing ping pong and basketball. And then in college, I threw epic parties. In my late 20s, I threw big parties. So I always liked bringing people together. It used to be more about the experience. Like I just wanted to treat people to an experience. And now a lot of it is I want to cultivate relationships for people. Having this sauna routine where we invite people to come over and do contrast therapy with us every night. Like I enjoy meeting these people, but I also enjoy these people meeting other people and what comes from that and seeing, all of these other people go off into the world and create things. And, Brian Mazza's a master at this too, where,
Yeah.
not only does he create opportunities for people directly, he creates opportunities for people that come together through his events that then go off and make things together. So,
Yeah.
I really enjoy seeing that now too.
The Mazza effect, I call it.
Yep.
It's
It's
real.
incredible.
Yeah. Well, the Hinman effect is real too.
Mhm.
So walk us through your typical day. What is how does your day start? Obviously, you get to the contrast part, but walk us through the typical day.
Yeah, I've been sleeping great in Texas.
Oh,
I
I need
sleep
better
much
sleep.
better I
Yeah.
sleep much better at a lower elevation. I don't sleep poorly in Denver, but if I go up high, if I'm at like 10,000 feet, I sleep really poorly. So, I always notice this when I visit my parents in New York, how many hours of sleep I get. So lately I'm getting 9+ hours of sleep in
How do you
Texas.
track your sleep?
I've been tracking it lately on my Apple Watch that
Okay.
I'm wearing. And it's not something heavily monitoring anymore. There were years back in the Ironman days where I would write down the things I did pre-sleep and how that affected my sleep, and I'll walk you guys through some of those things I do. So I wake up generally around 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. with no alarm clock. I don't schedule anything before 8:30 in the morning just to allow myself to sleep in if need be. And the mornings are all about kind of planning and creative tasks. It's when I have the least messages coming in. It's when I have, the least amount of stimuli coming at me. So I try to do something creative in the morning. For me, oftentimes that's, a post on social media, sharing a story that, I think others can benefit from, creating content for some of the brands that I work with. And then 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. is always blocked off for my first training session. So today I went to On It, trained with some friends at On It, and that's generally strength, anaerobic conditioning, accessory work, gymnastics. I loosely follow Matt Frazier's HWPO CrossFit program. If there's anything that I'm kind of dedicating my training to right now, it's getting to the CrossFit Games in my age group. So I hit that CrossFit workout 5 to 6 days per week. And then after that, I schedule all of my calls because I know that's when my mind is going to be the sharpest. Right after that workout, I'll refuel with some eggs, so a smoothie bowl, a smoothie. I eat pretty light throughout the day. I've just noticed that if I eat a lot or a heavy meal, it affects my mental clarity. So I tend to build my calories throughout the day.
Do you eat anything before you train?
No, I just have coffee. I'll have
Yeah.
my supplements. I'll have some collagen. So, I have some calories in my system, but nothing substantial. I'm not eating a big breakfast before I train. So eat after the training session, and then calls generally from 10:45 until about 1. That could be podcasts, calls with prospective new clients, calls with existing clients, brands I work with. And then around 1:30, if I'm in Colorado, I'm generally in the mountains doing something outside, aerobic, getting sunlight exposure. And I prefer to do skill-based activities with risk associated with them over non-skill-based activities with no risk. That's why I like mountain biking so much. It just forces you to be completely in the moment and present. And we're living in a day and age where it's so easy to be distracted all the time. So I feel like I have to incorporate these intentional presence practices back into my life to retrain my mind to be completely present when I'm having conversations, when I'm spending time with my family, with my girlfriend, with our dog, with friends, with new people. So do that for about 90 minutes. That's my aerobic activity for the day. And then around 3:30, I'll have another little work sprint until maybe 5-ish. And then 5 until about 6:30. That's when I'm either hosting friends, entertaining new people that reached out to me on social media. I invite them to come over and do contrast therapy. And we have 6 to 12 people over every single night doing contrast therapy.
That's awesome.
So, I get the physical benefits of recovery. I get the community benefits of having flow state conversations with people. And I'm intentional with meeting new people during that time because I know that's when I'm going to be most present with them. Like my morning workout, like the number one priority for me is to get a good workout in. It's not to have a conversation or to meet someone. It's more like I want to get my workout in. So I know in that sauna session, that's when I'm going to be best with others to add value for them and share various stories and also to learn from them too. And then 6:37-ish, generally smoking meat at home. I love, again, like these skill-based activities that you can continue to hone over time. We have a Yoder smoker. I love using that. We'll have friends who stay afterwards for a little barbecue. And then I'll try and learn something for about 45 minutes, wind down in the evening, and then hit the hay around 9, sleeping by 10 at the latest, and then rinse and repeat, up again the next day around 6 or 6:30.
That's an awesome day, man.
It's a great day.
Yeah, I need to. I have some similarities, but I need to definitely step it up for sure. And it's funny because I have a Sisu in my backyard and an ice barrel, and it's like I'm so busy typically throughout my day that I need to be more intentional about making giving the invitation to other people to join my evening session. Now, do you do contrast every day?
I do it every single day. Every day that I'm at home, either in Denver or here in Austin. If I'm traveling, I will seek out Airbnbs with bathtubs so I can at least take a hot Epsom salt bath. It's super important to me because traveling too, it kind of resets my nervous system. It's my days are fast. I'm meeting lots of people and having lots of conversations. So, when I'm traveling, it's more of like a solitary practice. So I'll just do a hot Epsom salt bath when I'm on the road for 45 minutes to an hour and just kind of check out and, reset my social battery.
How do you get the cold in when you're traveling?
Cold, I don't do as much when traveling. I mean, I'll look at, Austin is easy. There's tons of gyms here that have saunas and cold, but if I'm in Kauai and there's no cold streams or it's not an option, I'll at least do the hot Epsom salt bath. So, I'm doing something for recovery every night. And generally that's the easiest option to do is the hot Epsom salt bath.
When's the last time that you drank alcohol?
Oh God. I'm sure I've had a glass of wine within the last 2 years, but
Yeah.
I mean, I might have a glass of wine once a year, if that, once every other year. Yeah, my rule of thumb is unless it's going to greatly enhance the experience, I don't partake because, I'm grateful that I've figured out my perfect day, and my 6:30 to 8 p.m. is so epic. I don't want to affect it.
Totally. It's
And
funny
I'm
because
winding.
I get that now, like in my
Mhm.
life. I actually, the last drink that I had was New Year's Eve last year. So I'm coming up on a year, and I was a big drinker for a long time. And it's like when you start to remove that, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people that have other vices, right? And when you start to just, get clarity and feel really good and be able to like sit with yourself and do all the things that you just described, you don't want to, be out of your own head. Essentially, it's a very interesting thing that I discovered, personally over the last few years. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I'm not into doing things that have massive consequences. And I'll give you an example of where I'll accept some consequences. So, I'll do like methylene blue and a little nicotine in like a gum or in a nootropic if I'm doing Leadville, something that I know is going to really drop me into the moment. And I'm going harder than I usually do or longer than I usually do, like a high rocks event, I would do that, but I know there's going to be consequences from it. I know that, I'm going to have such a dopamine hit from going that hard or that long, or that my body is going to be so wrecked that I'll have a couple down days afterwards.
Yeah.
That's really the only time I'll do something where I know there's consequences. But with drinking, like there's always consequences to it. And I don't want to feel like shit the next day. So it's just not something I enjoy doing anymore. And there was a time when I did enjoy doing it. And, and I get the appeal of it. I get the social appeal of it. I think a lot of us in our 30s and 40s, we just find other ways to have that same social interaction. And as we age, we become more vulnerable too. You don't really need the drugs or alcohol to be your true authentic self. You just
Yeah.
really get more comfortable with, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to show up. If you like me, great. If you don't, so be it.
I love that. So you recently went through a shoulder injury from a mountain biking accident.
Yeah.
And so how much is injury prevention a part of your life with your lifestyle? Obviously you go hard and you're doing risky things that you stand a chance of getting injured and it takes you out of the game for a little bit. But let's talk about that because, for me, I just had a birthday the day after Thanksgiving. So I'm getting closer to 50 now. So like
Mhm.
my body just I'm aching, for doing anything at this point, and I try to avoid injury because I just had a knee injury that has taken me out, in some way for like 2 months, going on maybe 2.5 months now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do things now that beat me up. And I know the social media perception is I'm training all day, but I trained way higher hours and volume in those Ironman years. And I was beat up. Like it hurt to fly on planes. My lower back was always fatigued and it hurt to go up and down my stairs at my condo in Syracuse. I was beat up from that high volume of running. And, I abused exercise during that time period. I knew that I could get a high from exercise. So I would do 2, 3 training sessions every day to just
Wow.
keep getting that high. But, now with the sauna and cold exposure practice, it relieves my body of inflammation and you get a very similar endorphin rush from it. So I do that every evening. And that has really helped me with continuing to feel great all day and then wake up not feeling smashed the next day. And my training volume now too is really balanced with strength training, anaerobic conditioning, and aerobic conditioning. Unless I'm competing in something, I'm not pushing it beyond something that I can't back up the next day. I can do what I do day in and day out without feeling smashed. If I do
Yeah.
Leadville, if I do a CrossFit competition, then yeah, I feel smashed for a couple days, but I don't do that often.
Yeah.
Leadville is once a year, the mountain bike race, and I do the CrossFit Open, CrossFit quarterfinals, semifinals. I ride that season out for as long as I can. But outside of that, I'm not signing up for competitions much anymore for that very reason. I want to feel good day in and day out because for me, it's more about mental clarity, emotional well-being, energy. I just want that every single day. I don't really care about the competitive side of it anymore. Like meaning competing with others. Like I certainly compete against myself and I want to continue progressing, but I don't really care about beating someone anymore.
But your average day is pretty savage.
It is, but
Yeah.
it's again going back to that, like meet 5 new people every day. It's sets and reps over a lot of years that I've
You're
built
so
up to this.
used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, my body is very used to it, and I mean, I know what it feels like to be smashed every day, and I'm not that now, and I don't want to be that now. So even though it looks like a lot, like my body has withstood a lot over the years. So
Sure.
I have to. There's a certain volume I have to train to get any kind of adaptation now, but I'm not going at such a high intensity or such a heavy weight or such a long duration that it's affecting my next day of training.
Who came up with the hardest mile?
I came up with that. It actually was even harder the first time I did it. The first time I did it, it was 1 lap handstand walk.
Second lap handstand walk.
Yeah, that lap
Holy
alone
shit.
took 20 to 25 minutes. It was brutal. Second lap was burpee broad jumps. Third lap was bear crawl. Fourth lap was lunge. And now it's first lap burpee broad jump, second lap lunge, third lap bear crawl, fourth lap run, just to make it much more accessible for anyone.
Much more accessible.
Yeah.
How many people can do a full lap in a handstand? Like, are there many people that have done it with you?
Elite CrossFit athletes, but it's very tough.
That's crazy. That's unbelievable. How long does it typically take you to do the newer version of that?
Yeah, it started out around 40 minutes. Now I've gotten it down to high 20s.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, everybody needs to check that out. I need to try that. That's something I need to put on the list.
It's a fun one. It's long enough that, you're like, okay, I don't want to keep doing this. This kind of sucks, but short enough that, you don't quit. Like you get through it.
That's awesome. So obviously hot and cold, is super on trend. Places like Austin have had concepts for a long time, but now, I spend a lot of time traveling the country looking at wellness concepts, fitness concepts. Right now, I would say the most popular modalities in fitness, in group fitness, boutique fitness, are Pilates and strength training. And obviously, contrast is another very popular thing that's coming with a lot of new concepts, bathhouses, things of that nature. What would you say is something that you think is going to become popular, or becoming popular that less people are aware of, that are starting to implement?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is the social, tribal community component. I think we overlook that is such a massive form of wellness, just bonding with small groups. And, more and more of these places in Austin specifically are calling their facilities social wellness houses.
Yeah.
They allow for chance encounters. They allow for, deep connections with people. They have, 20-person saunas and contrast therapy where you're bonding with people. They have small group classes. Open gym where you can go and train with 4 or 5 of your buddies.
What's a good example of what's a good example in Austin of places that offer that?
Squatch is great. Onnit is great. Those are 2 that I've been to the last couple of weeks that I've really been enjoying.
Yeah.
There's many more like that here.
Sure.
So I think that's a big trend. Other ones I think are like restorative wellness. We had this trend of, CrossFit, hit workouts, go really hard, smash yourself. I think restorative wellness is coming back. So things like, stretching classes and yoga classes, just restorative wellness, booking a restorative wellness instead of booking, the workout where your heart rate is sky high and, you're doing a ton of different sets and reps of various high intensity workouts.
Do you spend time on mobility as well and yoga? Do you do yoga?
I had a time when I was doing yoga every day before COVID. And then when COVID came and it shut down all of the studios, I got out of my practice, but my body felt great during that time period. I get a lot of mobility from CrossFit, from the Olympic lifting. You have to be pretty mobile to snatch and clean and jerk and all of those movements. So just from doing those lifts, I get quite a bit, but I haven't taken a yoga class in a while, and I don't do any intentional stretching. I do warm-ups where I warm up my movement patterns for what lifts I'm going to be doing that day, but Yeah, I don't do a ton of stretching. It's something that I should incorporate more of. Breath work, I don't do a ton of. Something I would also like to incorporate more of. Pool workouts, I would like to get more and more into. I like that oxygen deprivation training. I think swimming in general is an incredible low impact aerobic activity. I do a lot of biking. That's really my go-to low impact activity that I do every day. But yeah, I think like a balanced workout regimen is so important where you have your strength training component, you have your anaerobic component, you have your aerobic zone 2, preferably outside in the sun component, and you have your human fix component. Pickleball is huge here in Austin.
Yeah.
So I think it's best if you can figure out how to combine some of these things. Like, how can I get my human fix, be outside, have my heart rate elevated, and get some strength training in? And then, you hit the trifecta with all those.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think even when we first met, you've been really, really just a really good guy and somebody who likes to definitely help other people. And and I really appreciate that. Just there's always products showing up in my office for me to try, and it's you really define what community is about today. And I know that you love sharing things that work for you, and you're doing a great job, which is why brands are attaching themselves to you. And it's so authentic. You're just you're an all around great guy. I just wanted to thank you for what you've done for me as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. 100%. So what are you most excited about for 2024? What's on the horizon for you? What are goals that you're setting for yourself? What do you got going on?
Yeah, lots of in-person stuff. Brian Mazza and I just chatted a few days ago about doing a HPLT Founders Only event in Denver.
Awesome.
So I'm really excited about that. We haven't picked the exact date yet, but we're targeting June. I just had a call yesterday with a friend, Danny, who's setting up a sauna camp in Minnesota. So
Nice.
I want to do an event with him where it's sauna, ice, the hardest mile on a frozen lake. That's going to be really fun. I'm going to do 3 or 4 Founders Only events next year where, I get founders of consumer brands, creators, wellness investors, all in an environment where they can add value for each other. That's my big thing, is just creating experiences and activities and curating, people where the sum is greater than the parts. And I know everyone is going to benefit from conversing with each other at these events. So
where can people get information on that? Just
foundersonly.club on Instagram. Follow that. That's where I'll be posting the dates for everything.
Awesome.
We'll be announcing it really soon. And then like Austin, setting up a second outpost here in Austin, similar to our Colorado house, where it's just this community social wellness clubhouse that people can come to. Just DM me, come over and let's do contrast therapy, and I'll give you a swag bag, and just looking to meet new people and just continue cultivating relationships and living out perfect days. And I'm so grateful that I figured out how to monetize my perfect days. I kind of feel like that's the dream, is figure out what really makes you fulfilled, family, friends, creating things, progress, like all of these things really fulfill me. So I've been able to design a life around those things.
Is there a book on the horizon maybe called The Perfect Day?
It's a great idea. I've thought about it. Right now, I still have too hard of a time sitting still for long enough periods of time to write a book.
Yeah.
But maybe in the future.
That. Yeah. Well, listen, the world could benefit from your perfect day and your journey. And I appreciate you taking the time to share it with us. And where can everyone find you? Obviously, Instagram is probably the best place, right? It's just your name, full name.
Instagram, best place, Eric Hinman. Website, erichinman.com. But Instagram, best place to message me.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much for the time. Have a great day. Great catching up.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, brother.